Today, I want to discuss with you guys what I think in my head when I sell Rune, when I farm Dragon Abyss Heart. That will include my Rune logic standard and my Rune sell exclusion setting as well. So hopefully this is going to help some of you guys out there with deciding when to sell or keep a Rune. So first, we have a 30 run here, very standard stuff. My first layer will be the sell exclusion setting. So I will sell all rare and hero, but not legend, because I want to take a look at every single legend that I get, because you don't get many legend anyway. So whenever there's a legend, I want to look at it to see if there's any hidden potential in there, because any quad roll stat can be usable, decent. And even on flat rune, you can still get a quad roll speed and it's still usable for an attack by booster that you want to use in arena or siege content. My exclusion setting is also very simple. I don't have super complicated because my rune standard are not super high, okay? And I think your rune standard shouldn't be too high as well. So let's take a look at what I have for my rune standard. So first layer is gonna be the speed. I want to keep everything that have minimum 4 speed, that is legend or hero, because for hero rune with 4 speed, you can still turn it into 22 speed and that can still be usable potentially for somebody. So for set, it's all of them. For rune grade, it's gonna be hero and legend. I want to look at 6-star, all the main property, flat, resistant accuracy, crit rate, I don't care. As long as there's speed on it, I want to take a look at it and see if it's going to be useful for somebody. The next layer will be crit rate, because crit rate is something that you cannot grind through grindstone, and getting maximum crit rate on a damage dealer or to the desired crit rate is very important. You can have the highest crit damage in the world, but if you have 50 crit rate, then your damage output is going to be inconsistent and it's going to be shit. So if there's only crit rate in the rune that I care about, it has to be pretty high. It used to be 4%, but I have built every single PvE team that they need to be built in the game, so my standard raised a little bit. But for my beginner account, I put it at 4 because you need to build so many damage dealer that any crit rate on any rune, on any set is gonna be useful for somebody. Be it Endure, Focus, or Guard, I need the crit rate on that rune so that I can build for R5, for Dragon, for whatever thing that I need to build for. But nowadays, if there's only crit rate, it has to be 6. And lastly, I want a combination of usable stat with high base, because I don't want to have 4% low base, because you're gonna roll, it's gonna roll very low as well, so it's gonna be a waste of mana and time anyway. So I want a combination of crit rate or whatever thing here, okay? It has to be a combination of something here for me to care about. So for all the stat here, I have 1 off max, and I have crit rate here as well, because crit rate can combo with any of these percentage or crit damage, and it can still be useful. Even crit rate with accuracy can be useful for things like Spectra or Veromos in the early game. So you can somewhat copy this, but reduce the value to like 6% or 5%. But if there's a good combination in here, you're gonna be okay. But most of the time, the rune doesn't have speed, doesn't have crit rate, has low base in any one of this, it's gonna be a bad rune anyway. So I don't want to be too specific with all the runes thing in here, because I want to be a bit more broad and take a look at more runes when I can. The more runes you take a look at, the more you think about rune, the more you think about team building, the better you will get at deciding how to keep and what kind of rune will fit what kind of monster, and all the niche usage in there as well. So as you can see right here, we saw all the blue one, but I think for an early mid-game-ish player, you actually want to look at the blue rune as well. So you're gonna tick rare here. So if the rare rune have speed or crit rate, I would take a look at it as well. That's what I do for my beginner account. I take a look at rare rune that have good speed and crit rate, and not just sell every single blue rune. So the first one right here got sold, but it had HP and resistance. You saw in my exclusion setting, it has HP and resistance as well, but the HP right there was 1% off the value I wanted. So if I reduce the HP here to 6%, I think the first rune will no longer be selected. As you can see, no longer selected. So in the past, I would probably keep this rune and try to roll it, because in the perfect world where the rune roll like how I imagine, it will go triple into HP, and it's gonna be a very decent tanky for a dedicated tank for my siege offense. So let's say a Darien, a Diaz, a Water Mammoth, Arena, they can all use a triple high roll HP without any speed and with a bit of resistance. But because I have built so many of that unit already, I want my standard to be a bit higher, so I wouldn't miss this rune when it gets sold. This one is a defense with crit damage. If you're a new player, you have to build some sort of starter damage defense scaling team with the Wind Living Armor or the Fire Frankenstein. So you will want this rune and hope that it roll into crit damage. So that's why you're gonna keep it. Roll it one time to see if it's gonna go in crit damage. If it's a defense with HP percent resistance, it's also good for, once again, any dedicated tank you want to build so that it can absorb all the damage from the enemy team. This one can be used as well if it roll high into HP and resistance. But once again, I have built so many of that, I don't need these anymore. Here we have a flat that's going to be sold because it's flat. And then we have a slot 2 HP without speed. I don't really want to keep that unless it has crit rate and maybe defense as well, so that it can be used in a Leo team because you don't want speed on it. But this one only had 6% attack, which is not very useful. You want to avoid flat as much as you can. Flat stat can still be usable, but that is the last thing you want on your rune. So we have a flat here. We have a low base in most of the things here, so I don't want any of that. And we have a slot 2 with no speed. We have defense in it, so we can't even grind that, so that's going to go away. And we have another flat here. All right, so those are going to go away. The first legendary we have is crit rate, HP, and crit damage. So when you look at the rune, you want to imagine, or not imagine, you want to do mental math immediately to see what is the maximum you can get from this rune to see if it's gonna worth rolling or not. A lot of people will look at this and be like, yep, no speed, I'm gonna sell. But this one can roll maximum crit damage or maximum HP, and it can be really useful for so many different kind of things. So let's see what happened here. For those who are broke in mana, you want to start with these. For those who don't really care because they are rich, they probably go with these. For demonstration, we're going to go straight in here. So we're going to have one good roll into HP, one into crit damage, but two into flat. So the common terminology is going to be the rune turn from legend into rare because the 2 flat roll is not very valuable. So we are seeing a sort of high blue rune here, which is not exactly amazing for most people. So we're going to sell this right here because I didn't get the HP or crit rate that I want or the quad crit damage that I dreamt of. So here we have a very perfect combination of stat. It's speed, crit rate, and attack percent. They're all good. They make a great damage dealer rune. But the thing that will destroy this is going to be one in each, low roll, and that's going to be bad. The good thing you want is double into something that you like and one into the other thing, or just triple roll into something that you really like. So let's see what happened here. We have a triple attack percent roll. So for an early mid-game player, this is going to be amazing for your early game damage dealer, especially for your R5 in the early game. You might need to have shield rune even so that you don't die too quickly. For me personally, I don't really need this anymore because I've already have many of this. And how do I know that? You either have to use a third-party program or you have to look at all your runes and then decide what is the minimum lowest value that you have right now. If you have 0 rune with anything above 20% attack in slot 1, you might want to keep this. So this was 667. Pretty above average roll as well. You also need to know by heart what is the minimum roll, what is the maximum roll. So minimum is going to be 4, maximum is going to be 8. So we got 667, which is not too bad. And this is definitely something that an early mid-game player can keep. But for me personally, I already have so many of this. So I don't need this anymore. The one that I would keep is going to be triple crit rate or triple speed roll and high roll as well for it to be useful on any of my damage dealer. So that's going to go away as well. We have a revenge rune here with a 5 base speed. That is amazing. We got a defense roll here as well. Potentially going to turn into something amazing. It turned into something very average. So we have double low speed roll because we got a 9. So that's a 4 and 5. That is very low. And we have a average starting base as well. We got a high defense roll though. So this could be useful for an early game support unit like a Beladion or Lauren could use this for your early game adventure. But for me, that's definitely not going to be a good one. So my minimum speed I would keep nowadays is going to be 22 because I have so many things above 22 already. So the minimum has to be 22 for it to be either speed tune with other unit, they have to move together, or it can be potentially an upgrade in terms of speed for some unit. With accuracy here, so this one got past the filter. It doesn't have speed, it doesn't have crit rate, it has low HP, and it doesn't have very coordinated stat here. Coordinated means you want, let's say, crit rate, attack with damage. So that's going to be damage dealer. You have speed, HP, defense, going to be for support. You have speed, HP, defense, accuracy for a debuffer. You have speed, HP, defense, resistant for a tank. You have a crit rate with either HP or defense to have like the respective damage dealer. This one has none of that. So usually an accuracy slot 6 is used for a support unit as well. So you want to have high speed on that support unit. So this one doesn't have any of that. It's gonna go. We have intangible rune. This is the one that you want to have the lowest standard for potentially because it can be used for many different things. But over here, we only have crit rate to worry about. And if it roll triple, it can be a good rage or blade rune. Oh, I like this one. So it is now potentially a good rage, blade, or fatal. It can also be a good will rune. So if we roll speed here, we didn't roll speed. So I have to either slot in, depending on the situation. If I want it to be on a attacker, it's gonna be having attack percent here because crit damage cannot be grinded. So ultimately, I want to have attack percent so I can grind it to go even higher. If it's gonna be on a unit that need HP or defense, we're gonna put that in. This shield rune right here have crit rate and some other stuff as well. Once again, looking great for the triple crit rate roll. We got double HP roll. On paper, sounds like a good idea, but we have very low HP roll here. The max roll is 8%. So this is like 5 and 5, low base. Oh, we're not really low base. We have a low double roll, so it's gonna be pretty bad. It's like a blue rune. You got like one roll here. It's not even two rolls, it's like a one roll because the max one roll is 8%, so it's gonna be going away instantly. And then lastly, we have a defense rune with crit rate on it. So for most people, this is probably not gonna be useful in any shape or form, but oh my god, it's not looking so good. For starter, it might, for like a very starter player, it can be good for your Ikaru because you need the defense flat for your Ikaru to hit the minimum defense. For endgame player, you want to have HP and crit rate. So put it on like a tractor so that it can revenge and it can use some HP or the crit rate to do damage or tank better. So that is what I go through in my mind when I try to upgrade runes when I farm Dragon Abyss hard. To further explain my point, let's take a look at some of the unit that I build that might not need rune with speed at all. So this guy is a dedicated tank for whatever I face in siege battle because he cannot be crit that easily and he provides protection for other unit on the team. And he's built with Will, Revenge, and Endure. He's on HP, HP, and HP. And the main job for him to be on the field is to not die. So whether he move often or not is not really a big deal. If he can move and land some debuff, that'd be great. But the most important thing that he needs to do is to not die. So the rune that he has on him will be focused on HP, defense, and resistance. And HP flat or defense flat can become very usable instead of having attack percent. Most of the rune or all of the runes should not have any attack percent at all, but optimize for survivability. So even for this kind of rune, I would potentially take away the crit rate, put in HP or defense flat to make him slightly tankier. And that will allow him to stay alive better. And that is how you will use some unit without any speed at all to tank the enemy damage. And everybody knows a damage dealer is usually built with attack with damage attack. But nowadays, we have rare cases like Suiki, for example, that require you to have some sort of attack slot 4 so that the unit can do good damage because this unit doesn't crit at all. And you need the attack slot 4 so that this guy can do damage. So when you get an attack slot 4, you need to immediately know in your brain that there are units that can use this rune very, very well. So keep it, roll it, and use it on these kind of unit that doesn't crit at all, but require you to have an attack slot 4 to maximize the damage output. You can also rune him with speed HP, but I like to rune him with speed attack so that he can do the most attack possible. And then there's this kind of family that really love crit rate slot 4 because they thrive on critting, but they don't really need crit damage. So they will use a crit rate slot 4, and you want speed, you want stats so they can do damage, they can be tanky. It works for other member of this family as well. Or when you want to build a damage dealer, for example, let's say you want to build this guy, but you don't have a good crit damage build. I have a crit damage build, but my crit rate is high as well. But if you have a crit damage build and your crit rate is really low, you can also try going for a crit rate slot 4 build and then try to get as much crit damage in your other rune as possible, because you're gonna have rune like this that have a lot of crit damage but have 0 crit rate. Or you're gonna have the runes like this, very good speed, but you also have 0 crit rate. But you want your damage dealer to hit hard and hit hard all the time. You can try going for a crit rate slot 4 and go for crit damage in all the other slot, so you can still have a very hard hitting damage dealer without worrying too much about getting crit rate in other substat, especially when you want the damage dealer to be fast, because when you want the damage dealer to be fast, your rune has to focus on having speed, roll, and you cannot expect to have crit rate roll in every rune like this. You can have rune like this that have only speed but no crit rate. So trying out a crit rate slot 4 on a damage dealer and trying out crit damage in the substat and other rune, you might find yourself a very fast, hard hitting, and consistently doing good damage with a crit rate slot 4. So how do you know all this? You have to take a look at all your monster, what you can build, what you want to build, what you actually will build, and note down what runes you really want on each monster. So when you farm, you have a better purpose. When you look at all these runes, you don't just think very shallowly. You don't just think on the surface, maybe some speed, maybe some crit rate, but you know exactly what you can build, what you want to use the rune for, so that you can have a better understanding of rune and you can keep better runes and build more unit and enjoy the game better, instead of just worrying about, hey, no speed, whatever, don't care. But some units just don't need speed. They need stat that can do the damage, that can do the support that they perform well with, and that's gonna allow you to enjoy the game a bit more. I hope so. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was helpful in some way, or if this format is great for you guys to listen to when you're trying to play and farm. Let me know if you want more of this for maybe other farming dungeon, and I'll try to do some more for you guys. And thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.